Okay, I hope you guys can hear me loud and clear. Let me also share my screen. Okay, I hope everything's okay now, guys. Please confirm.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, great. All right. So first, let's get into the theoretical part, and then we'll come and do the exercise on this portal.azure.com. Okay. So let's understand what's backup and what all we can back up, using the Azure. So in this module, we are going to cover this file and folder backup, virtual machine backup, and of course, we will talk about, lab will go hand in hand. Okay. First thing first, file and folder backup. So we have Azure backup, we have something called recovery service vault, and then we'll understand what is a recovery service agent, and of course, demonstration of the backup files and folders and the backup Azure files, right? This is what we are going to understand. Why Azure Backup, what all the components of Azure Backup, and why the Azure Backup is so much famous. Famous in sense, it is very much useful for the organization. So let's understand from the Microsoft terminology, why to use the Azure Backup and what all the benefits using Azure Backup. So this is the theoretical part, why we use the Azure Backup and what is the Azure Backup Service. So if you see that, as per the definition, the backup service, Azure Backup Service provides simple, secure, and cost-effective solution to back up your data and recover it from the Azure cloud. Okay, this is like one-line definition. To memorize it, to have a basic understanding on the Azure Backup. Okay, it is a service which actually securely take the backup of your Azure, of your on-prem data, Azure data to Azure cloud. Okay, and what all can be backed up? You can back up your files and folder system using Microsoft Azure Recovery Service Agent, which is also known as MARS. And you can also use the DPM or Azure Backup Server to protect on-prem hypervisor or Hyper-V on the on-prem workload. You can also take the backup of Azure VMs. You can also take the backup of Azure Managed Disk, File Share, SQL running in Azure VMs, SAP HANA database running in Azure VM, Azure database for the Postgre SQL servers, Azure blobs, and so on. Okay, these are the different set of items that can be backed up in Azure environment. Okay, now if you see that this is a kind of architecture here. So here you need to install the backup agent, and here not only for your cloud, but Azure backup can be extended for you on-prem. It means if you are running some workload in Azure in on-prem environment here as well, that can also be backed up, okay, using the Azure backup service. And of course, you have the cloud here, Azure cloud, that can also be all the virtual machines here, the storage account that can also be backed up in the Azure environment. Now, what are the backup services we have it here? Recovery, point management, store management, multi-factor, multi-user authentication and multi-factor authentication, policy management, access control, and then the outcome is monitoring and reporting, data tiering, resiliency and availability. These are the different terminology it has. Okay, so we are going to just devote some more time here to understand why to use the Azure backup, what all the different sort of Azure backups we have it, and how it is going to be benefit for the organization if they use the Azure backup. Okay. Why to use the backup? if you have something running on on-prem and you want a one copy to be backed up in Azure environment, you can keep on-prem backup to Azure environment. Azure Backup provide a simple solution for backing up your on-prem resources to the cloud. Okay. Backup of Azure IaaS virtual machine. It means your virtual machine can be backed up in Azure environment. Then you have something called scale easily. You can easily scale up, scale down for Azure backup. You do not have to worry about how many virtual machines you have right now. And tomorrow, if you add some more virtual machine, the Azure backup service is capable enough to extend your need. It has a kind of by default scalability. As per your need, it can be adjusted. And the most important, whenever you're taking backup, there's no charges. Azure Backup does not limit the amount of inbound or outbound data transfer. Okay. If you perform an offline initial backup using the Azure import and export service, then only there's a cost associated. Okay. Like, petabyte of data you wanted to transfer. Then there is a different, service which is called import export services. That is going to be chargeable. Otherwise, normally there will be no charges. Your data will be secure using this transit. It means they are using a specific algorithm to encrypt the data. You can always monitor management. You can always monitor what kind of data and if there's any failure, alert mechanism, all of these things you can configure with the backup services. You always get a consistent backup at recovery point at all the data to recover the backup copies. Retain short and long term data. It means whenever you take the backup, it has the retention period up to 10 years, 200 years. So depending on what you're looking for, you can always choose the same. Automatic store management, and then you have different storage options like LRS, GRS, ZRS. These are nothing but replication topology that we'll just understand, and we will be doing it during the storage account when we are going to create a storage account and study the storage, various type of storage in Azure. Okay, it also protects you from the ransomware attack. Okay, so here is the security in Azure. This is like one of the parameters when we talk about overview of security features in Azure, how you're going to secure your backup services. How you're going to secure your data using the backup services. So first comes your identity and access management. Control and empower a queue with limited sort of access. Grant and delegate to least people, at least, every Tom, Dick, and Harry, you should not grant the permission. So that is why it says that, okay, these are the different permission that you can play around. Reader, you can give the reader permission if someone wants to have it, someone wants to explore it. Then operator, this is like you can delegate this role, and the contributor create and manage backup except deleting recovery service fault. So like that, you can, first of all, you can just manage that who can and cannot do what by giving this kind of permission. You can get this kind of permission in Azure already. Then separation between guest and Azure storage. This is what internet connectivity not required for Azure VM. So these are the bullet points. These are the recommendation that one should be incorporating in the solution when they are looking for the long-term backup. Provide endpoint for the Azure backup instead of creating the Azure backup and publicly making it available for all the users or the respective stakeholder ensure that they should be able to connect with the private endpoint. And this is how they are going to encrypt the data. Data encryption occurs in many stages in Azure VM, in Azure Backup. Within Azure, data in transit between Azure, protected by HTTPS. Data is already encrypted using the platform managed key, and you don't need to take any sort of explicit action to enable it. By default, it will be encrypted by Microsoft. But if you have some keys, you are using some PKI server, some sort of CS servers in on-prem, and you want that with this public key, the data should be encrypted. So Microsoft welcomes that move as well. Azure backup support and restore of the Azure VM that have this kind of advanced Azure disk encryption and CMK encrypted disk. Soft deletion by default, when you delete anything, it will be there for additional 14 days. Immutable vaults, this protect your data by blocking any operation that could lead to loss of recovery point. Multi-factor authentication, that you can enable it, and enhance the soft deletion, that also you can enable. Suspicious alert. So these are the different points that one has to configure during configuring the backup and securing the backup in a right direction. Now, these are the best practices. There is also something called the architecture of the VM, architecture of the backup. That's what we are going to understand one more time. Let's see that here. I think we should be having, yeah, backup architecture. Okay, first thing first, how does Azure backup work? This is what you have it. You can backup on-prem Windows machine directly to the Azure by using the Azure backup, Microsoft Azure Recovery Service, or we say MARS agent. When you install the MARS on a specific Windows virtual machine, whether it is on-prem or in the cloud we have a different mechanism, but in on-prem we have to install this agent. And of course, we have to make the connectivity. Okay. So when it comes to connectivity, what do you think, guys? What is the best solution, and what is the best solution for making the connectivity with the Azure environment? What is more prominent among the industry? What types of connectivity you think that you should be establishing in order to in order to have the proper connectivity so that servers can communicate to Azure environment and vice versa. The on-prem environment can connect to Azure environment, and Azure environment servers can also connect to your on-prem.
VPN.
Come again, please.
No, I said maybe VPN for connectivity, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So what about VPN?
Yes. So what kind of VPN that you will be configuring? VPN, how many types of VPN we discussed last time?
I don't remember exactly.
Yes, VPN is the right solution. But think what is the something that we should be looking and configuring here when we talk about server to server connectivity between on-prem and Azure. Okay, so either we can establish something called site to site or Azure Express route. Okay, Linux machines are not supported here. So only Windows virtual machines are supported. So you can back up your on-prem machine to backup server either using the DPM, which is called Data Protection Manager, or we also sometimes say the Microsoft Azure Backup Server. And now in this case,
So
yes,
I have a question. So you are saying that the Azure backup is only on Windows machine,
no, no,
not on Linux.
let me, RK, no, not RK, sorry, Muru. Let me complete. That is
Okay.
halfway. Okay. That's what I'm saying. Let me complete here.
Okay.
But if you have, this one, the second option, when you go for MABS or DPM, so here you have an option. Irrespective of any servers. Okay, so this is how actually, let me elaborate here. So if you running, say, you're running any virtual machine, okay? And I'm saying this is your on-prem environment. Data center. This is your on-prem data center, and here you have some standalone virtual machine, okay, or servers. Say rather than machine, you have some servers, okay, here, and this server is Windows server, Win server. So by installing the agent called Mars, okay, by installing the Mars agent, you can you take the backup of this Windows servers to Azure cloud, right? Here you can take it backup. But unfortunately, the same is not possible when it comes to Linux. Okay. So to cover the Linux, if you have something called this one, which is on-prem data center and the virtualization, say you're using some sort of virtualization under the corporate office here, you can say this is my this is your virtualization. It means either you're using a on the physical server, you're using EXSI, you're using the VMware, you're using the Microsoft hypervisor, and inside that, this is the virtualization, and inside that you have a different guest operating system. Guest operating system like that. This is this is going to be Windows, Win Server 1. And here you're going to have the Ubuntu machines, Linux 01. Similarly, Windows here, Server 2. Under Linux flavor, you can have the Ubuntu, Rocky Linux, or anything else. CentOS, Linux 02. So it's like a combination of Windows and Linux. If you have, say, 20 servers, 50 servers under this virtualization, so all of these can be backed up using something called DPM or Microsoft Azure Backup Server. So you need to install something called here Microsoft or Data Protection Manager, DPM, or Azure Backup Server. And then the data will go to Azure. Okay. So this is what it's trying to say in this concept. And all the data, whichever you're taking, it first thing first, it goes and stay in recovery service vault. Recovery service vault is a kind of temporary storage where the data will be stored. Okay. So this is the case of your on-prem machines. All right. And how about the Azure VMs? You do not need to install anything. Here, the VM agent that is running on the VM, this is extensions. Remember, we talk about extensions. The moment you install or the moment you're trying to take the backup, you just need to install something called backup extensions. Any sort of agent you don't need. And when I say that extension will do the practical of agent, installing the agent on a standalone machine and installing the backup extension on the Azure, you will see the difference. Okay. And here you can take the backup of a specific file and the folders, or you can take the backup of entire Azure VMs. Okay. Till here, clear guys? Muru, you clear?
Yeah. So my question was on the on-prem, if you have to take a backup, so is it only on the Windows or it can be Linux also?
And that's what I answered it, right? Standalone virtual machine. If you talk about standalone virtual machine. So unfortunately, the answer is no.
Yeah, okay.
You can't take the backup of standalone Linux virtual machine or standalone Ubuntu server, standalone Red Hat server. But at the same time, if your Linux is part of your virtualization, then of course you can take it. You can take the backup of, because here you will be using
But that Linux has to be on the Windows.
Linux has to be on Windows. I didn't get.
So the virtualization, right?
Yeah,
So you
virtualization. See, when we talk about the virtualization, it is not the Windows operating system. It could be Linux. Sorry, it could be hypervisor. And the hypervisor could be, when we talk about hypervisor, it could be from VMware. Generally, in the market or in the industry, there are three major players. One is Microsoft. Microsoft uses something called hypervisor. Then uh, then winner, if you talk about, is a VMware. VMware, they use the different operating system, which is neither Windows based nor Linux based. Okay. They're using something called EXSI. And the third one is Citrix. Citrix use the Gen software or something to provide kind of interface where these machines can be hosted. Okay. In a general term, yes, we can use a Windows operating system as a hypervisor, but that is for the test environment, that is for the lab environment, that is not something that industry uses on a large scale. Okay.
So
You
what is the
also
solution
use
for the customer who uses the Linux on-prem servers?
few use cases like sometime if you see in Red Hat Linux server, if you're using it, it is being used for the DBA prospect, like database team. They have some Oracle database on physical machine. So yes, the scope of running any sort of on-prem physical server is very, very minimal nowadays. And that is why you have the virtualization. If you see the virtualization history, the virtualization is there since last 20-25 years now. Okay. So majority of the companies are using the virtualization. No matter if it is a small or big enterprise, they prefer to have the virtualization in place because in that way they are going to save money. That way they are going to minimize the overall overhead, right? That is the reason they go for the virtualization. So that is the whole and sole reason the Azure is coming into the picture and ensuring that in such virtual environment, no matter whether it is Windows server or Linux server, you still can take the backup. But yes, there is a restrictions for physical servers because the architecture for the physical machine will change. Okay, a physical machine like a standalone server, Windows servers, Linux servers. But when it comes to the EXSI or the virtualization, the base operating system, the base operating system is neither the Windows or Linux. Because as I told you, VMware use something called EXSI, which is a kind of DOS-based operating system. Okay, you heard about something called Unix, and then AIS. These are also the operating system. AS400, you must have heard about. So
Yeah.
here in this case, the virtualization is there. So under the virtualization, any sort of guest operating system, not only for Windows and Linux, if you have the AX400, AX400, then also we can take the backup. Because we are not considering the guest operating system here. Rather, the component will install here on this layer, on the outer layer, which is EXSI layer. Okay. So inside that, any sort of operating system it has, it doesn't matter. You can take the backup of everything. Is it clear now, Muru?
Okay. Yeah.
Great. Now the second thing comes when we take the backup, where actually it is stored, where the data is backed up. So that answer is recovery service vault and the backup vault. This is where the data will go. It is an online storage entity in Azure that is used for holding the data, such as backup copies, recovery points, and the backup policies. Okay, sorry, there was a noise. So here, if it from the exam prospect or from the interview prospect also, this usually being asked that where all the backup policies is stored. So the backup policies is stored in your recovery service vault. And what all the features for the recovery service vault? These are the features. Vault can make the organization easy to back up your data while minimizing the management overhead. Okay. You can monitor the backup items in Vault, including the Azure VMs and on-prem virtual machine. You can also control the access, or you can manage the ACL or RBAC. Then you can also control how the data will replicate for the redundancy purpose. Is it going in LRS? Is it going in geo redundant, or it is going in ZRS, zone redundant storage? And in each Azure subscription, you can create up to 500 vaults, which is more than sufficient. Okay. Now coming to when to use the backup agent, when to use the extensions. So Mars agent, you will be installing on a specific server, Windows servers, to take the backup of files, folders, and system states. It also can be used to take the backup of VMs to have the backup of files, folder, and system states on the Azure VMs and here on on-prem Windows servers. Also, you can install a DPM MABS, which is Azure, Microsoft Azure backup server to back up this local storage to that Azure. For that purpose, also sometimes you use Mars agent. And extensions you will be using on Azure VMs, the VM which are running in Azure environment. Now, how many types of backup we have? It is a general questions. Okay. So full backup. A full backup contain the entire data source used for the initial backup. Then this is what we have to understand. Differential backup. Differential backup is to the block that changed in the last initial full backup, but it is not used by Azure. Okay, this is not something Azure does not support or does not use this topology. This backup type is like industry based backup type. Okay, it is not something what Azure has as per the documentation. Incremental backup, it is like the changes last happened today. For example, in this virtual machine, what we discuss here, in this virtual machine, say initial backup has been done on Azure, which is like at 2 o'clock. 2 o'clock, the backup is done. 2 p.m. say, okay, backup is done. Now user must have made or developer must have made some changes. So again, 4 p.m. if the backup is scheduled, so whatever the changes has happened in the last couple of hours, that changes only will replicate to Azure, not the entire copy. That is called incremental backup. Okay, so that is being used by DPM, Maps, your Azure server for taking the backup of disk and all sort of backup to Azure, not used by SQL Server. Under the SQL Server, what all that you can take the backup? A full backup that is something being supported in Azure. Then differential backup, most you can trigger one differential backup, but you can't configure. Transition logs that you can configure in every 15 minutes. Then you have something called SAP HANA. So under SAP HANA, what all that you can take the backup? You can take the backup of this. Now there is something called comparison of the backup time. So there is a concept called RTO and RPO. Does anyone know about it, guys? Saswat, I think you are from security team, right? You must be knowing it. It's very basic. There's a concept called RPO and RTO. What is RPO and what is RTO, guys?
So can you come again, please?
RPO and RTO. What is RPO? What is RTO?
RPN don't know, sir.
Okay. Anyone else?
No, I don't know.
Okay, so we are going to discuss first this, what is RPO, what is RTO. So these are the two terms that we should be knowing it. What is RTO and what is RPO? These are the two basic terms that one should know. So let's see that. So RPO or RTO, we should, first of all, what is this RTO is RTO stand for recovery time objective. Okay. So this is called RTO, recovery time objective. And the goal is for this is to empower the organization or the length of the time, usually because whenever if there is any breakdown happen with respect to any sort of services, how long your organization can wait. Okay, that is called waiting time, or we say restoration time to normalize the business, or how much the data loss can your organization can afford it. For example, once morning you come to office and you found your database is not running. Okay, so Of course, you're going to do a lot of troubleshooting to fix it. But if suppose you tried 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours, the database is not fixing. So how long you can wait? What is the length of that time? That is called RTO, recovery time objective. What is like, your organization can afford the loss since the database is crucial for the organization and it is not working. How long you will wait? The length of the time to recover the data or to restore the business, the waiting time, that is called RTO. Okay, and then there is something called RPO. RPO, recovery point objective. Okay, and the goal for this RPO is maximum amount of data the organization can tolerate losing that. Okay, maximum amount of data the organization can tolerate, which is called recovery point objective. Okay, for example, your once recovery point objective, say in the virtual machine, what you have it, or the database, what you have it. Last, suppose there's a problem here on the database in the situation number or case number 1, recovery time object. Okay, now you try to fix this database, but it is not fixing. So you discuss with your management, you let them know that, okay, I have put all the efforts to fix this database, but now I need to raise a ticket with Microsoft, with Oracle, or any OEM, right, who owns the database to fix it. So while you're doing the troubleshooting to fix it, business is in loss because of that your business is, impacting. It is hindrance the business. So you go and check with your backup team and you found yesterday's database is there. It means, say the database which has crashed today at 9 a.m. local time. Okay, and when you go and check with your backup team, you found that, yeah, the night around we have successful backup copy of this database up to 12 a.m. midnight. Okay, so of course there is a 9 hours difference here. This is midnight, guys. Okay, midnight. So last successful backup of this database which got crashed or which is not responding is 12 a.m. So we have at most almost 9 hours data. So if you go and ask the backup team to restore this database, so at least 9 hours data will not be there. You getting that point? That is called RPO. So, or if suppose your backup time or the schedule time is like 5 hours, 6 hours, 8 hours, sometimes 10 hours. So that timing, that database will not have the real time or real time database when you're going to restore it from the good backup. So are you ready to lose or are you ready to wait? That is something, it has to be written well during your disaster plan as per the company best practices. How long you can wait it? Either you are going to wait to fix the database is in the case number 1, or you are ready to afford, okay, fine, at least 9 hours, whatever the transitions happen, I will not have the information, but it will not stop my business. At least my business will be in a running stage, right? My My customer should be able to access this database. Of course, this 9 hours data will not be there. So are you ready to take that? Are you ready to, accept that is called recovery point object? Clear the concept, guys?
So basically for RPO, we will be losing some data. Is that correct?
Yes, we will be losing, and this loss, once you have this at least assumption that you are going to lose, but what kind of loss, that how much you can afford it, right? That afford a time, or not the time, the data, in terms of data. Okay, in terms of data, how much you can tolerate, that is called RPO. And in RTO, more specific towards the time. Okay, how long you're ready to wait to fix this problem. So here it's like how long, I mean the keywords, if you talk about how long in terms of time, and here how much the data you're ready to lose. Okay, that is RPO and that is RTO. Okay, clear? So that is something Azure try to make it minimum to minimum possible. Because if you suppose, in certain cases, we'll see that, say you're taking the backup of virtual machine in every 1 hour. So in this case, RPO is going to be 1 hour, right? Because we will not have the 1 hour data. So we have RPO here for 1 hour. So in this cases, RPO is 1 hour. In some business critical database, if you are taking the backup in every 30 minutes, then RPO is going to be 30 minutes, because you are ready to lose the data for what happens in the last 30 minutes. Those data will not be there, but rest of everything will be there with us. Okay. So that is RPO. Let's see some more concept here. Now here what we have: full backup, differential backup, and incremental backup. This is like a structure to understand. And then the backup features. What all the backup features you have? Policy essentials. A policy's essentials are actually help us to determine that how many times that you can take the backup. The backup you can, the policy, as per the policy that you can create it for the VMs, SQL in Azure VMs, SAP HANA, and Azure File Share itself. A policy can be assigned to many resources, one policy. Okay. A policy consists of two components: schedule, when to take the backup; retention means how long the data will be there with the backup. And schedule can be defined as a daily, weekly, or a specific point of time. Okay, so retention, how long the data will be there in that recovery service vault, that you will define under retention. Okay, then retention of the monthly. So all these policies, all these terms, you can define under the policy. How long the data will be there, what kind of backup you're looking for, retention, how retention schedule, all of these things you can configure, and where you will configure for the VM, SQL Server, SAP HANA, even your on-prem. And this is your impact of the policy changes on recovery point. Okay. So built-in Azure VM. So here we are going to discuss different use case. Okay. So first use case is if your VM, Azure VM, is there in Azure environment. So in that case, what would be the architecture which backup is going to follow? So here is the something called for Windows. For Windows, we need to install the VM snapshot. Okay, we don't need to install if your virtual machine running in Azure environment, whether it is a Windows or Linux, you can take the backup. But you don't need to install any sort of agent. Only extensions are sufficient. This is extensions. This is also extension for Windows and extensions for Linux. Okay. This is the example. I'm in the diagram to understand. You have the backup service, you have the vault, you have Azure virtual machine, you have the backup agent. Instead of the backup agent, we have the extensions. Okay. Then case number 2, direct backup of on-prem Windows Server machine or Azure VM for the file and folders. Here we need to install something called Mars agent. Okay. And here the Linux will not be supported. For example, you have the backup agent server. This is your on-prem environment. And here you want to take the files and folder backup. The files and folder backup can also be taken. And here you will be taking to recovery service vault as per this diagram. This is case number 2. A case number 3, when you have the bunches of guest operating system. You have the bunches of guest operating system, and this operating system comprise of Windows and Linux. Okay. So whether you have Exchange server running on, SharePoint server running on, SQL server running on, Windows servers running on, Linux are running on under the hypervisor. Under VMware, you have the Windows 7 client, file and folders. Everything can be taken to the Azure. Only thing is you need to install the component called DPM on standalone server. So 3 cases we understood. The first one is if my workload running in standalone server, if my workload running in Windows on-prem environment, and the third and final, if my virtual machine, if my guest operating system are running in virtualization. Okay, and this is the VM storage where the VM will be storing in case of snapshot. There is something called managed disk and unmanaged disk. This is also we need to understand. What is unmanaged disk? You can see a simple, they have given in a simple language. Traditional type of disk used by the VMs. A disk which you create from your own storage and specify it when you create the disk. That is called unmanaged disk. When the Azure or Microsoft create any sort of disk, that is called managed disk. Okay. Now, in what circumstances, what could be the unmanaged disk? Unmanaged disk could be, for example, you're running some virtualization, right? In this example, here, some of the virtual machine running in Azure environment. So this virtual machine, no, sorry, not Azure environment, on-prem environment, guys. Okay, under the on-prem environment, if you're running some sort of virtual machine, okay, now you feel so that, okay, I need to migrate this virtual machine to Azure. So for that, you will be first converting the image into version 1 or version 2, or generation 1 and generation 2 disk that you should be converting. Okay, and then from there you will be taking to this unmanaged disk into the Azure storage, and from there you will be creating the virtual machine. So what you did in this whole process, you actually extracted the information, extracted the image in the form of disk, and furthermore you're creating the virtual machine using this disk. That is called unmanaged disk, because in this case, the Microsoft role is 0 for managing your disk, right? Because you are copying the data from your on-prem environment. But yes, at any point of time, you can convert unmanaged disk to managed disk. With a PowerShell command, we can convert it. Now, what is the advantage and what is the managed disk? Managed disk is something that Azure creates and manages for the storage account. Okay, so the best example to understand managed disk is something when you create the virtual machine, behind the scene, your virtual machine and the storage are also being created. That is like Microsoft is creating on behalf of you. So it is Microsoft responsibility. Patching that disk, taking the backup of that, that is Microsoft responsibility. You don't need to break your head there.
Do we need to mention the size, I mean the storage size or whatever,
Yes.
this many GB?
Yes. Say if you have the virtual machine running in on-prem environment, say 200 gigabytes. Okay, so you should be able to see when you're shrinking the data, the 200 gigabytes will sometime will become 190, 195 gigabytes. So accordingly, we need to choose a storage. And once you store, and from there, you are going to create a virtual machine. Okay. Now, backup and restore Azure VM with premium storage. The premium storage is like, as the name says, the premium. It has the more features than standard. And of course, it is going to be a little expensive compared to your standard. And thereafter, backup and restore managed disk. You back up your managed disk in the same way that another VM, same thing here. And then the guidance and the best practices for the backup. This is your document for your backup requirement. What workload you wish to protect? What is required backup granularity? Do you have any compliance requirement? See here, what is the required RPO and RTO? These are the set of questions that you should be asking. Do you have any data residency constraint like GDPR, data compliance policies like HIPAA? You must be aware about how long the data will be there. So this is like architecture, device supported, managed disk, skill management, workload, data plan, management plan, and so on and so forth. Okay. Do you feel that only one single vault is fine for me, or you need multiple vaults? Okay, so that is also possible. Go and change the default setting and customize the way you want for your organization. Consider your backup policy. Retention consideration. So each and every aspect, they are giving the best practices. Optimize the backup policies. Security consideration. Authentication authorization. Encryption of the data. So see here, all the things it's there to cover governance prospect. Okay. So this is all about the theory, what we have it. Okay. Let's do the practical part now. And in this way, we will be considering two practical. First of all, how to take the backup of virtual machine, Windows virtual machine, or Linux virtual machine in Azure. That is case number 1. And the case number 2, we will be installing something called Mars, okay, on one of the virtual machine, and we'll see how to take the backup of files and folders. Okay, one more thing I wanted to bring your attention here. Okay, whenever we are going to create the backup, the way actually you want to deploy, or say you have some requirement, the backup agent or the backup system here is quite intelligent. Basis on your inputs, the backup architecture will change in a real time. And what I'm saying, let's see that. Let's try to create something called recovery service port. Okay. And we say, because this is the location where the data will be held. Okay. So here we will be creating something called recovery service port. And one of these, it's already there. Let me delete it. If I can delete. So something is there. Okay. It is from the last class. I need to change it, but let's go. So I'm using this resource group, existing resource group under Central India. And I'll say backup 009. Okay. Next is vault property. Enable the immutability. This is if you enable, so and so things will happen. I'm not going ahead. Then allow public access. Yes, this is something I'll be doing it, but in a prod environment, it is something that you should consider allowing it from the public network. You should always go for private access. So let's go ahead and create this recovery service vault. Okay, so deployment is in progress. Okay, so this deployment gets completed. Let's go and verify. So here it is. Now, say I want to take the backup. Okay, so if you see that this recovery service vault not only hold the data for your backup, but for site recovery also. And we are going to discuss this site recovery after some time, not today. So say you have some workload running. So now here is the input that you will be defining it. Okay. Now see, the moment you change your workload, these are the set of questions that Azure will ask you, and accordingly, it will help you to give the solution as far as the backup part is concerned. For example, you're saying that, okay, my workload is running in Azure. And what do you want to take the backup? You're saying that virtual machine. Okay. And of course, you have these many options. You can select SQL Server in Azure VM, file share, SAP HANA, and so on. So if I say you want to take the backup of Azure VM, so backup. So here you see that I still have not any sort of virtual machine. So the moment I add the virtual machine and I need to enable the backup. So this is what I have chosen. I have chosen the virtual machine running in Azure environment. So I don't need to install any sort of agent. Rather, the moment I enable the backup, it will install associated extensions on the virtual machine. Okay. So, Now, in the similar way, if I change and I say that I want to take the backup of on-prem, okay? Now, the moment you choose and select on-prem, and what do you want to take the backup? You want to take the backup of files and folder, Hyper-V virtual machine, VMware, SQL Server, SharePoint, Exchange, System Stage, and Metal Recovery. These are the different options you have it. So if you say, I want to take the backup of Hyper-V virtual machine, okay? So prepare the infrastructure. So it is 3 steps. First of all, install the backup server. Then go for vault credentials and register to the server to the vault. And third, operations, use the backup server UI to configure the backup. These are the 3 different steps once you change or select this one, Hyper-V. Similarly, it goes with any other, for example, SQL Server. Your SQL Server running in on-prem environment. So we have to go for MABS, which is Azure Backup Server. Now, at the same time, if I say I want to take the files and folder backup, okay? So it says you need to install Recovery Service Agent. You see that how frequently options are getting changed here. Okay.
Okay.
So what we are going to do now, we will be using, okay, let's try to create the blueprint here. We will be exploring 2 options. A first option will assume that this is going to be my on-prem server, okay? On-prem server. Of course, you can do the same on your local laptop, and we'll assume that this is going to be my on-prem data center. Okay, this is going to be my on-prem data center. And we have some critical files and folder under this. Here, I have some files here. Folder and files. I want to take the backup of these files and folder to Azure environment. This is my Azure environment. And of course, under the Azure, we have something called recovery service. The data will go and sit here on the recovery service port. So let me see whether we have icon. Yeah, it's there. So data will come and sit here, the files folder and whatever we are choosing. So this is case number 1. This practical that we are going to do. Case number 2, when you have the dedicated Azure virtual machine running in your Azure environment, and we'll see how do we install the extensions. We don't need to install any sort of agent. So let's first focus on case number 1. Subsequently, we will be doing and exploring on case number 2 as well. Okay. So let's install one of the server, or we have to deploy one virtual machine. So we are going to deploy one virtual machine under the same location, which is my nearest location. And I'll say client machine or PC, whatever it is. Here I can choose anything, and I'll say server machine. And I'm going to use username and password here. Next is so under this we have why this screen is okay. Next is disk and image size. We have already make it. Networking mapping. I don't want to make any changes for now. Let's review and create it. Okay, so deployment is in progress, as you can see. Okay, so this is the way, and so now connect to this VM and we'll see that connecting to this VM. Okay, so now this server is ready. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to create. So in the first we are still here. Case number one, we are exploring some files and folders that need to be taken on the Azure cloud. Okay, so let me just copy few files and folders. Here, PDF file, and okay, I'm copying these files and folders inside, and I'm saying that okay, backup to be backup. Okay, so these are the files and folders. Now let me create two folders, one more folder, one more folder, three folder. Here I'll say rename to IT. Here I'll say rename to marketing, and here in last drop we'll say sales team. Okay, here 1, 2, 3. I kept it here under IT, and here under marketing, and rest of other things under sales. So three folders. Inside three folders, I have some data, as you can see here. What I'm going to do, I'm going to take everything, a copy of all this to Azure. Okay, so what I need to install it. So I'll go here on the Azure environment, which is here, and under recovery service vault, this one I've created. And here under the backup, here we will be defining, okay, where is your workload running? I'll say it's on-prem. And what do you want to be the backup? Because our intention is to take the files and folder, and we'll say prepare. So it is asking for this agent, okay, download agent for Windows Server or the client machine. So I already have, I think, this one. Okay, I'll just copy here inside this virtual machine, and I'll say this is the agent.
I think it's copied.
Yeah, it's copied here. I will install it now. Run as an admin. There was some lag in my system, it seems. Okay, I think it's fine. Fine now. So right now we don't need any update, but yes, we should be going for the Microsoft update. And these are the prerequisites which is already installed on this. If it is not installed, it will throw an error message and we need to install it. Okay, so installation completed. Proceed for registration. And here is the vault credentials. So we'll go to the portal and we'll say that I've already installed this agent. Now let me install this vault. So I got this here. And this is what I'll copy it under the C drive. And I need to give this vault. Under the vault, what all the information I have it. Okay, so you will come to know this is the vault. So it has the vault name, reason where actually this vault is created, and the subscriber identifier. Okay, with the help of this machine will communicate with Azure Vault. Okay, this is the vault. Next, it generate the password and the location. Save the location. So if I'm saying on the desktop, which is not recommended, that's what it says. It's not recommended, but yeah, I know that. It's my test environment, so I list further about. But on the prod environment, this has to be keep on safe and secure place.
Secure place meaning like
You can keep it in Azure Key Vault. You can keep it in some, some different USB or in different server. It should not be into the same server.
local. Okay.
Okay, that is what.
So what is that vault to mean actually? I know in the Microsoft what do you call the Outlook Express or whatever, when I change to different server, it asks for vault, something like that. What is that vault mean
Vault
actually?
here is like, is the one of the component which actually keep your secret management. You can store, it's a kind of repository. And this is like safe repository, which actually keep like, you do not want to memorize the password. For example, right now, what we created, we generated the password. And like that, there are multiple application where you need to have the password. So you can just store it in the vault. So instead of we as a manually remembering the password, let the system remember it. And at any point of time, you need to use this application. So you can call it through the API. So this way we are going to secure our environment. Okay, the password will be safe and secure in Vault. Another example is like, if suppose your private key or public keys are going to expire in certain location. So you can keep it under the vault. Okay, under the vault you can keep it. Now, once you keep it under Vault, what happens is from the API, you should be able to call the API and should be able to supply the credentials or the certificate which you copied. For that purpose, we will be using Vault. Okay, so now let's launch this here. And we see that this is what my Azure backup server and the client, agent look like. Now registration is completed. Now what is the changes here on the portal? Right now, if you go under the backup items, here we have nothing right now. Azure Virtual Machine backup agent, nothing. The moment we install and configure agent, this will be turn out to be 1. Okay, here this agent right now, what you can see is 0. So here, if you see, there is nothing here. But the moment we configure this backup, this will turn out to be 1. So if I say schedule the backup, here it is, schedule the backup. Next. Now, what do you want to take the backup? Okay, so here we will be defining inside the C drive what I want to take the backup. So I've chosen this. This is the folder. Inside that I do have some folders and I want to take the backup of everything. I'll click on OK and then I'll say next. Of course, you can put some exclusion settings if you need. And here is the backup. How do you want to take the backup? Is it like daily you want to take the backup or the weekly, or how the time that you want to customize? So here we have plenty of options that we can choose. In a week wise, weekly you can define it, or daily wise on a daily. Again, you can define it 6 a.m., 9 a.m. and say 11:30 a.m. 3 times in a week that you can take it maximum. Okay, so in this case, what would be the RPO here? Here is going to be say here. So in this case, what is the RPO? The 2 hours, right? The RPO is 2 hours. Of course, you can select less than that, 7:30 also. Sorry, 7:30 p.m. And then at last it will so. Okay. Now, this is your retention policies. Like how long the data will be there in your backup under the software one. It's like 180 days by default, 6 months. You can define Sunday and Saturday timing plus this is 52 hours. 52 is the week, so it's like 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, and you can any point of time you can increase the time. Here also you can increase it. Okay.
Okay, I have one question.
Yes.
So let's say, yeah, so let's say we schedule all this time and the the backup is happening. Does the size of the backup server or whatever that gets dynamically resize it? Let's say I resizing meaning like scaling. I'm saying okay. Let's say I'm right now it is assigned like 10 GB. In future, for some reason, the 10 GB becomes 15 GB or whatever, right? So what happens in that situation? Like the Azure change the,
Yeah, it's quite scalable. That's what, today you have 10 gigabytes of data which need to be backed up. Tomorrow you might have 15 GB, you might have 20 GB. So that is scalable enough.
So that scalable happens automatically, or
Yeah, it
we have
happens automatically under the recovery service vault. You do not need to do anything as far as files and folders are concerned. But yes, for DPM, because in DPM your data will be in terabyte, it will be huge. So there you need to attach some data disk in addition to the recovery service vault. You need to attach the local disk.
okay.
But as far as files and folders part is concerned, nothing is needed. It is quite scalable.
Okay.
Okay, I'll click on next. And here it is, the data. Now, sometime what happens is your data is more, which cannot be, travel on the internet or on the public interface because of the data size. Or if it is too much and your bandwidth is not up to the mark, it will be like for a week or so. So another option is you can always connect with the offline and you can order something called box from Azure team, and you will be copying the data. For us, in our case, we are choosing online and finally finish. So we have registered the server, we have scheduled the backup. Now we'll have to give some time here and it will be counted. See here, now we can see it is turned on. C drive, server protected machine, last backup, and so on. And here also it is turned on to be 1. Okay. So last backup is not being performed. So what we can do, scheduler, the schedule we have already done it, right? This is something that, okay, as per the server time, this will be now 11:30, the last backup, latest backup will happen. But what happens is now instantly I want to take the backup. Okay, I want to override every set of settings and I want to create a manual backup. So here is the option, backup now. Files and folder. So this is your retention period. And say by default it's taking 1 month. So what need to be backup? The same C drive, everything. So now the manual backup is happening. The data is going to Azure environment. Okay, so job completed. Close it. Now we'll have to wait for some more time here. And under that, you should be able to see something called recovery point. Okay, this is stamped is fine, but it will still give at least 5 minutes more to sync the data. In the meantime, let's try to complete a couple of more theory. This I'll cover it now in a while. Recovery service what implementing Azure backup. This I may already cover. I think we covered the theoretical part. Soft deletion is like 14 days by default. And there's something called site-to-site recovery, which is like,
What is soft delete?
soft delete is like when you delete anything, how long it will be there in your backup in a recovery service vault. If you delete any item, it will be there by default 14 days as per the backup policy, default policy, but you can override this by custom policy.
Okay.
The last option for the backup is called site recovery. A site recovery is what it is called. Sometimes we also say Azure site recovery. So it is kind of, you are creating your own DR in a different location, far away from your location. Okay, far away from your location, and that should be nearest to your region. For example, if I'm looking for Central India, so nearest would be for me South India. If South India, the DR's copy is not available, then it could be for nearest other region. It could be, East Asia, which is the next available region for me. Okay, so we will be creating something called source in one location, destination in another location, and doing the failover. Failover is the process which actually you will be doing to ensure that whether this system is working the way it has to, or if there is any flaws. So drill, you can say the failover testing, we will be doing it before we initiate the actual failover. Okay, I think this is done, job completed. And I'll say refresh one.
Is this sync is same like what the what do you call I forgot the name.
In different cloud, you're saying?
Yeah, in the cloud it happened, the sync happens, right? Is it something similar to that? I'm just trying to see what is the difference between this backup and then the backup what I forgot that name.
So this backup is nothing, but
we have OneDrive, right?
OneDrive is also sync. OneDrive, SharePoint, that also sync. But that is like continuously in sync, whatever you're doing, because in our system also, in my organization also, we are using OneDrive. So if you see that this is OneDrive already. OneDrive, the data is being backed up. This all
Right.
see on the desktop, what you can see, it is synced to my OneDrive. So it is not sync, it is not completely sync. You cannot see the data inside the recovery service vault. Okay, first of all, it is not something that it is encrypted by default. Here, it is under this recovery service vault. You cannot see the latest information. What you know that you have taken the backup. That is the something is masked, right? But in OneDrive, SharePoint, you can see the data is what kind of data is being synced. So that is like continuously it is synced. Here it is not. That is a kind of event driven. Here it is like schedule driven program. So it is not the same. Okay, it's like completely the backup. You're taking it And now if something goes wrong, you are going to restore it also. OneDrive, SharePoint, it has a kind of sync data, which is like OneDrive is more towards event. The moment you say, for example, if you create any WinWord file or Excel file or PowerPoint file and you save it, instantly this will create a event driven and the data will be synced from your local system to OneDrive. Automatically, there is no manual intervention is needed. Of course, the policy and all that you need to push it.
Okay.
Okay. Now coming to this, now we can see the data and RPO is available here also, recovery point, so and so, latest copy and everything. And on the top, on the portal also, we have this information, what we are looking for. All right. So what we are going to do next, we are going to delete everything. Okay. Let's say under this, I'm going to delete the entire folder. Let's delete it. I deleted, but again, it's still there under the recycle bin, right? So I'll empty. So my data is lost, right? And my data is lost, but I do have the backup copy. So let's see how soon we are going to recover. So I'll click on recover the data and I'll say this server only, click next. And I'll say, because I've taken the individual binary folder, I'll be saying yes. Select the volume. I have chosen a C drive earlier. Now this is the new backup. So now what happens if I go to this PC? Okay, so this PC, I have only one partition, C drive. Okay, so if I click on mount, so temporarily I'll be getting one more drive under this, and it will ask me to copy the missing data. So now the restoration is happening from the recovery service vault, which is stored in Azure environment. Okay, so E drive has been mapped. So if you see this one, E drive, this is the temporary, and here is the data. I'll copy it and I'll say restored data. And paste it here. So now I'll verify everything. Every sort of data is there. See here under IT, marketing, and sales. Everything is there. So I'll say, yes, I'm done with copying. Please dismount it, unmount. And the moment I click on unmount, this will disappear from here. See, it's gone.
Do I need to unmount every time or?
Unmount is like, that is a temporary. The moment you click that dialog box also, it will be unmounted automatically.
No, it unmounts, but why do we need to unmount? Isn't,
Because
anyway,
that was like, temporary, because you have taken the copy, you have
right.
restored the copy. So you do not want to keep it again, open it for forever, because that was a
Yes.
temporary drive. That is the reason
Yeah.
you need to unmount. Once you copy the data, you say, I've already copied the missing data, which I was looking for. So I have already copied the data. So the moment you say that, yeah, I'm done with restoring, click next. Even though if you're not unmounting, it will disconnect it, a temporary drive which was created during the restoration process.
Isn't that like I need to take a backup? Let's say tomorrow I need to take one more backup. So do I need to do the same step again?
No, tomorrow, if you need to take the backup, first thing is you should always use the schedule backup option. But yes,
Oh, okay.
yeah, I mean, you can schedule it that every time, how many times you need the backup, that you can schedule it. You don't need to come and do the manual intervention again and again. But yes, at times come when you need to take the instant backup. Now, what could be the use scenario for the instant backup? For instance, a developer team, they made some changes, okay, to one of the server, and they come to you and say that please take the backup because we are going to roll out these changes in the prod environment. So if anything goes wrong on the prod environment, at least I should be having the latest copy. So before I make changes on this, on so-and-so website or so-and-so VM, please take the snapshot of the backup. So it's like on demand, we are taking the backup, but at the same time, schedule backup process is already there. So you utilize it, you leverage the schedule backup. Yes, and every time when you need to recover the data, you will be able to see the latest RPO, you know. So RPO is nothing but recovery point of objective, and it represents that this machine has these many RPO.
Okay.
Clear? So now if you see that we have the data which was lost, and this is how actually we perform the files and folder backup to Azure. The case number 1 is completed. Any questions so far, guys?
No.
Okay.
I don't know how secured when they do the copy. Like usually,
How?
the
Uh-huh.
yeah. So when we transfer the data from one place to another, do they have any kind of security?
Yeah, that's what we spoke about, right? Security in place. We spoke about here security, right? Under security, what all the different security
Oh,
mechanisms we have, right?
so this one, okay.
What is soft deletion? We spoke about this. What is enhancement that you can do? Retention policy. We have the encryption in place, for securing this any kind of communications happening. It is on an
Okay.
encrypted channel. Okay.
So these are all the settings available when we create the, let's say, RP or
Yes, very much. Backup agent, backup type, and then we talk about backup security also we talk about. Yeah, like, these are the set of questions that we should be asking. Data plan, management plan, vault, default settings, policy settings, schedule, retention policy, backup policy. Yeah, security consideration, right? So these are the security best practices for the backup. Start with minimum role. You start with a minimum role, okay? And then encryption of the data in transit and rest. So here it is. Within Azure, data is in transit between Azure storage and is protected by HTTPS if it is in Azure. Then we have something called CMT encryption backup. Protection of backup data from unintentional delete with a soft deletion. This is what multi-user authentication, MAU you can use. Ransomware protection, monitoring alert any suspicious behavior, help to protect your hybrid backup, network consideration, internet connectivity. So these are the checkpoint. These are the checklist. We should be considering it.
okay.
Right? So now assume our first option is done. Now in the same case number 2, we'll see that this is my virtual machine in Azure. Okay. So first of all, let me uninstall. I'll be using the same virtual machine. I'll be uninstalling the agent which I installed. Whether this is the one uninstalled. Okay, so successfully uninstall this agent, and from here on the portal, this will also deleted in a while, the backup items, because this will take sync time, backup item. This will also deleted. So now what we are going to do, we will be installing something called extensions, and we'll define that, okay, my workload is running in Azure environment, and this time I want to do the backup of the virtual machine. So I'll be coming here and I'll say, where is my workload running? I'll say Azure. What do you want to backup? I'll say virtual machine. Next, go ahead. So this is like by default policy. Standard one, enhanced one. Default policy is this. You can create your own policy and customize these options. Okay. Let's add the virtual machine. Here I'm adding the virtual machine. Click OK. So now validation is in process. Virtual machine does not exist. Okay, because the client what we install, it is still conflicting. Okay. Let's see, verify. And virtual machine. Now it is coming up. Okay, server machine. Click OK. Now it's the validations. Okay, so it is, we have chosen the trusted Azure VM. Okay, so what we have to go, we have to click on enhance policy. So it is a standard policy since we during the deployment we use the trusted Azure virtual machine. That is the reason it is not supported. So now if I choose server machine again, click OK. So I think I should be able to edit. Yeah. So here you can see that by default, the moment you add the server, this is my OS disk, right? Which has selected. Now this option says tomorrow if I create the D drive, E drive, F drive, that will also be covered as part of the backup. I have already enabled it. You can enable, disable, it's up to you. And click on enable backup. So the moment I click on enable backup, so here there's an enhancement package which is being deployed on this virtual machine. So this will take a couple of more minutes. and it's done. Go to the here under the backup. If you come and see, sorry, backup items, you will see my virtual machine has been enable the backup item. And in this case, we have seen that we have not installed any sort of agent. So now if we click that, my warning message kind of initial backup is pending. What is happening? The initial backup, it means a full backup of this virtual machine is being kept on the recovery service vault. Here it is. Okay. Here also you can stop a kind of, schedule, and you can say backup now instantly. Click OK. So it will trigger the backup of the virtual machine instantly. Now for some virtual machine, the data is going to be more, because in this case, my data or my C drive itself is only around 30 GB. But in real time, you can have multiple partitions, considering 200 gigabytes to 600 gigabytes to 1000 gigabytes. If that is the case, this backup will take time to complete this process. Okay, so we'll have to just leave it for some time, and after that, this will be taken care with the help of this agent. So this is all about the backup, guys. We'll have to give some at least 5-10 minutes more, and this will be backup will complete here. Now, a few more things that we should be knowing it under the backup policies. This is the policies by default. Okay. Now, what this policy says, if this default policy or enhanced policy, see what it says, enhanced policy says that you are going to retain the instant store for 2 days, retention of daily backup point for 30 days, weekly, it's been not configured, you can create and configure, and this is like default enhanced policy. But you feel so that, okay, this is not something I am looking for, then you should create a new policy type for Azure VM virtual machine. For example, I have chosen this. Now it is asking what is the name of the policy. Then I'll say it is for my dev environment system. Okay. Now it is saying backup schedule daily time so and so, and this timing. Retain instant recovery snapshot for 2 days, 3 days. Retention of daily backup point for 180 days. You can reduce this. Weekly backup, again, you can reduce it. Monthly backup, again, you can increase and decrease this. Okay, so this policy, once you create, that policy can be associated with the virtual machine or with virtual machine skill set. Then we have something called backup infrastructure. As you can see right now, we have this agent one, okay, which nothing else we have. And this is what the Azure storage account, which I was saying. Say, if you're going to have the dedicated virtual machine or hypervisor environment where you are responsible for 100 virtual machines. So you will be installing this and configuring the storage account with the Azure backup. Okay. Replication item, this is not very much applicable for this. We also have something called DR, disaster recovery. Here it is, which will cover it in the last segment. Under the recovery service vault, what is happening It's like your data will be here, and we should be able to create a kind of site recovery job. So for that purpose, we will be using this recovery service code under the site recovery report and all that. You can configure it. You can see that what all being backed up, replicated item, if there's any failure, backup policy, backup infrastructure. So all of these things should be considering while we plan for the backup. Now, if I come back to the virtual machine, or let's see here. Let's see where we are in terms of backup. Backup items, agent. So still it is taking time. Okay, so full backup, once it is done, then it will complete the entire process. That's it, guys, for the backup topic for today. And I think we can wind up for the day. We can have the another topic tomorrow, which is going to be storage plus the identity management. Okay.
I have one question. So the policies, are we going to cover that, or is
Which policies,
the
Muru?
the policies for the backup? Remember
Yeah,
you showed
backup
that.
policy, that's what I told you, right? These are the backup policies. Like the backup policies are nothing but under the backup policies, it is, you can explore it. See, it is not a kind of anything which it's like self-explanatory. Like this is the default policy. Now, under the default policies, what all that you can modify, you can configure under the default policy or anything.
Basically, this policy talk about the scheduling part again.
Yes, yes,
Frequency.
yes, yes. Two main
I thought
thing, scheduling plus retentions. And it is, sorry, not the scheduling, it is retention plus the frequency. How frequent you're going to take the backup, okay? And how long you're going to take the backup in your recovery service vault. Retention of the daily, like 30 days. If you delete anything from your recovery service vault or the backup you deleted, it's going to be stored for 30 days. For weekly, it's not configured. You can configure. You can configure for monthly. You can configure for yearly. And once this policy has been configured, you can associate with items here. Right now,
okay.
there's nothing. I mean, there's nothing here, but now you can associate the backup goal, because for each and every goal, the policy is going to be changed. So if I say that I want to configure for my Azure virtual machine, so I'll have to associate here. Then I'll say backup. Now I have associate here. I need to select the virtual machine. Since I've already selected that server PC, it is not coming here. But that policy, one policy can be associated with one resource. Okay. And that is the reason the another one is not appearing here, which I have just recently created. So the intention of this policy, if you see that policy subtype, standard or enhanced, you can choose it. Again, it's a default policy. You can create a new policy.
I thought policy is something like giving a permission, or who can access things
No,
like
no,
that.
no, 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 no. That is different. That is like that covers as part of your identity access management, or IAM, we say. The
Okay.
intention of this policy is to define the frequency as well as define the retention period. That's it. And you
Okay.
can configure this policy. You can associate this policy with virtual machine, depending on what kind of workload you're choosing. Accordingly, you need to assign this policy.
Okay.
We'll check again on if we see that whether anything replicated. Usually it takes time. Yeah, now you can see server has been successfully backed up. So if I need to
This whole
restore,
virtual machine, right?
sorry,
This is the whole virtual machine.
yes, it is a whole virtual machine. Now say if I want to restore the VM, suppose something goes wrong with my virtual machine, this virtual machine. So if I want to restore it, so here it is restoration point. This is the point snapshot. Okay. So with this snapshot, I can create a new virtual machine. See, it is giving me an option. I can create the same virtual machine. I can also select where to, deploy this virtual machine. This is the new name, new resource group, virtual network you can select, or you can create your own virtual network and say that, okay, I want to restore the virtual machine on so and so location. That is also can be done. Resource group, here these many resource groups are there. Virtual network, these many virtual network. So the moment I click on restore, with the backup what I have it will create a new virtual machine. Or you can also have a replace existing option, which will replace the disk and the location. It's up to you.
Okay.
That is called restoration and the backup of virtual machine. I'll stop it for now and then delete the data in a while, because it will cost me. So that's it, guys, for the day. Any questions regarding backup till now? Help me to understand. If not, we are ready to wrap up. We'll meet tomorrow with identity management, which is nothing but Azure ready. And if the time permit, we'll also complete something called a storage account.
Okay. So tomorrow we are going to see identity management.
Right. Azure ready, identity management, and the storage part.
Okay.
Fine, guys. So there's no further question. We can wind up. We'll meet tomorrow. Till then, good night to you, Muru, and good day to you, RK. Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye.